Jewish Channel's Week in Review. A modern-day blood libel in Sweden, the Jewish items you'll see in stores this year, rabbis flying to halt the spread of swine flu, and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world in this webcast version of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. It's probably the boldest and most public blood libel-style claim in a Western country in decades. One of Sweden's most read newspapers published a story this week claiming that Israeli soldiers are harvesting organs from Palestinians. Breaking the story in English was Israeli newspaper Haaretz, which says the headline from the Aftonbladet paper read, "They plunder the organs of our sons." Haaretz goes on to cite the Swedish paper's story as claiming that young Palestinian men were captured by Israeli soldiers and that they were returned dead with an autopsy having been performed and that organs were harvested from these young men. It's the kind of claim that might occasionally show up in an extreme fringe publication, but the Aftonbladet newspaper claims to be the highest circulation newspaper in all of Sweden. Rebecca Honig-Friedman went to the Swedish mission to the United Nations for a response.
I'm here at the building that houses the Swedish Consulate General and the Swedish UN mission, where we tried to get a response to reports in Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet that Israeli soldiers have been kidnapping Palestinians to steal their organs. A political affairs official said the office would only make limited statements.
I just noted we have no instruction at all. But I did note, just from reading media, that there were some comments made by our ambassador to Israel, and that's the only thing I note those comments, and I encourage you to read those. There's no other comment that we can make from here, at least today.
Kvarnstam provided TJC with the official statement from Sweden's ambassador to Israel, which said, "The article in the Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet is as shocking and appalling to us Swedes as it is to Israeli citizens. We share the dismay expressed by Israeli representatives, media, and the Israeli public. This embassy cannot but clearly distance itself from it." On the point of whether Aftonbladet had acted responsibly, Kvarnstam also offered no comment.
We have absolutely no opinion on that.
Much of the fallout from this story remains to be seen. As our broadcast went to air, a number of other newspapers and organizations had attacked Aftonbladet for running the story, and as yet no mainstream news groups or individuals had risen to the Swedish newspaper's defense. Reporting for the Jewish Channel, I'm Rebecca Honig-Friedman.
Thank you, Rebecca. One element of this story attached to current events here in the American Jewish community is Aftonbladet's connection of these claims to the arrest of an American Hasidic man for organ trafficking in late July. Yitzhak Levi Rosenbaum was arrested for organ trafficking as part of a larger sweep in which 44 individuals, including a number of elected officials and 4 rabbis, were arrested for charges ranging from public corruption to money laundering. However, it seems worth clarifying, especially given the vagueness of many media reports in the weeks since the arrests, that no one other than Rosenbaum, including no rabbis or leaders in the Jewish community, have been charged with assisting Rosenbaum in his organ trafficking operation. And while the claims of organ trafficking against Rosenbaum do involve allegations of illegal and immoral activity, none of those claims suggest that he was harvesting organs against people's will, but rather that donors were giving their kidneys willingly in exchange for compensation. While no one has suggested that what Rosenbaum is alleged to have done was correct, it's worth clarifying that the circumstances under which he allegedly operated, as detailed in a sworn statement from an FBI investigator, did not involve organ harvesting, as the Swedish newspaper suggests. Rosenbaum's alleged organ trafficking could not have succeeded by using organ harvesting, as in preparation for transplant operations, the donor and patient are interviewed specifically to ensure that the donor is giving the organs willingly and without receiving any compensation. Moving on to another story involving what the media will and won't publish when it comes to religion, Yale University Press has said it won't publish a series of cartoons portraying Islam's founding prophet, Muhammad, within a book about the controversy and riots that erupted when the cartoons were published in a Danish newspaper. The publisher is quoted in the New York Times saying he didn't want, quote, blood on my hands, for violence that could result from publishing the cartoons. This is a similar approach to that taken by much of the mainstream media when the cartoons were originally published, including the New York Times, which chose not to run the cartoons, which would have allowed readers to understand the context in which the violent protests were made. Now, despite the heated news that led this newscast, August is very often considered a sleepy month for news organizations, without much going on. But the late summer is also a time when trade shows take place, in which manufacturers and purchasers plan the very heart of the year, including the December holiday season. Margie Rauhat stopped by the New York International Gift Fair to get the scoop on what Jewish items you'll see in the coming year.
It's one of the most exciting trade shows in the world. The New York International Gift Fair brings people from all 50 states and 77 countries together to show off some of the hottest new products that won't be available to consumers for several months. TJC decided to scope out the show and discover what's new in the world of Jewish-themed gifts, and what we found is likely to excite buyers. We've got plenty of more traditional and sculpted items, but first we'll take a look at this fun new product. It comes from a Jewish comedy writer in Los Angeles who took a joke and has made it into a business.
I was at a Chinese restaurant one day looking at the Chinese zodiac placemat, and as Jews we all love Chinese food, and I said, why isn't there a Jewish zodiac? But what would it be? It wouldn't be you're the dragon and you're the ox, it'd be you're the bagel and you're the lox. So I'm a comedy writer from LA, I'm a son of a rabbi, so who else but me to put it all together? So I said, bagel, what would that be? Well, you're pliable and always bounce back, although you feel something's missing in your center. If this persists, get some therapy. Compatible with schmear and lox.
To learn how the Jewish zodiac means that President Obama has pickle-like personality traits, plus many other beautiful and fascinating Judaica products, see the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Margie. Finally, a series of short items that give a different perspective on some of the Jewish news you'll see this week. First, famous newspaper columnist Robert Novak died. Novak is most prominently known these days for his reports in the Washington Post revealing the status of Valerie Plame as a CIA operative in 2003. His obituaries note his many articles critical of Israel from his right-wing political perspective. One of the most interesting things about Novak, though, is the fact that, though born Jewish, he converted to Catholicism through Opus Dei, a conservative Catholic group that doesn't embrace the rulings of Vatican II, and is perhaps most famous as being the sect of actor Mel Gibson and for its fictional portrayal in Dan Brown's novel The Da Vinci Code. A 2002 article in Slate magazine highlighted how Novak and a number of other influential political conservatives converted to Catholicism through Opus Dei clergyman John McCloskey, including another man born Jewish, CNBC's Lawrence Kudlow. Another story you might have heard about is that of a group of rabbis flying over Israel reciting prayers to invoke God's intervention against swine flu. But you probably haven't seen the video, courtesy of the BBC. That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel during the week, please check out our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. For the full broadcast version of the Week in Review, including additional stories, interviews, and features, please stop by the Jewish Channel on cable. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable, IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.